All right, welcome to another edition of International Soccer Break. I'm your host Sahil, and I'm here with Rahi and Bick, and we are going to talk about India again. Unfortunately, this result did not go the same way as the first one.
It did not. It did not. We were hoping for a miracle and we didn't get one. We got a reality check. Not the end of the world, but it's not entirely unexpected. I think for moments, India looked like they could play, but overall, there was really only one side who was ever going to win this game. From the minute the first whistle, I mean, they came out and had chance after chance early, scored the first goal within 4 minutes, and they never looked back. I'm not entirely disappointed with India's performance, but a little bit. It's a bit of a reality check, Vic.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we were all very optimistic. I was even optimistic when the second half started, and then I think I paid for that optimism. Yeah, look, I agree with you. I think definitely reality check. Qatar, after all, were in the World Cup, reigning Asian champions. So not unexpected, but I was hoping for better, especially on the defensive side.
Yeah, I think let's just talk about the game a little bit. I think one thing when you're playing a team that's Asian Cup champions is you can't allow a goal that early on. It completely changes the dynamic. And I think that basically any plans that Igor Stimac had that got thrown out the window very quickly because in the past in the games India's had draws against Qatar, and
Mm.
that was obviously a situation where they're not coming right out of the bat and getting a goal on you.
Yeah, and it was not great defending that first goal, right? It
Yeah.
could have been cleared multiple times. It's not the kind of goal you want to give up against a team as good as Qatar because you know they can score. You don't need to help them do it. And that was difficult. But I do think it was an experience. If you've seen the beginning of the match, it seemed like India was just overawed a little bit by the speed, the pace, and the strength of Qatar. And then they adjusted. But not a good way to start, Big.
Yeah, and also, I mean, again, it was disappointing that it happened in both halves as well, right? Because like I said, I went to the second half thinking, okay, India have shown some resilience here. Some last minute saves. I think a good save by the goalkeeper in the first half as well, and some attacking moves. And I thought, who knows? 80th minute, it's still
Yeah.
1-0, and they get a goal. But yeah, I think just in both halves, Qatar just came out of the blocks, and I think that definitely took India by surprise. But to be honest, I did expect better from India. I know we've said Qatar are significantly better team, but I feel like the defensive organization was pretty bad. I
Yeah.
mean, we saw the first goal. It was basically like a pinball machine in there. No one had any control. There were no defensive lines. So yeah, I think defensively, India have got quite a bit to work on.
And then they had two glorious chances, right?
Yeah.
Two point blank chances that if you're going to take a result against a team like this, you have to finish. I mean, the first one's effectively a one-on-one after Chetu does well to win the ball. That's got to be a goal. It's got to be a goal at that moment. Then it's 1-1.
Mm.
But that's the problem. It's a game of moments, and
Yeah.
against a team like this, you got to do better with the moments you have.
Yeah. I mean, but it's also experience, right? Because sometimes what happens is you have that chance, and in your head, you're thinking, okay, this could be 1-1. And then you get overexcited and you either overthink it or you take a shot when you shouldn't. And hopefully that this will be a good learning experience. And I think they can definitely they've got plenty of time to go away and have a think about, okay, what could we have done better. I'm sure they'll be watching the tapes again. But yeah, I think it's just a lot of the time it's just a matter of experience.
I
And
wonder if
You're right.
that's where they miss a player like Manveer Singh, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I think if Manveer Singh coming off the confidence of the goal against Kuwait,
yeah,
if he's the one being sent in one-on-one, I think that's in the back of the net.
100%. It was a big
yeah,
injury, a big loss. I completely agree. And it felt that way with a lot of the Indian players that they did so many good things, especially in the midfield. I thought at times they were doing some good things, but then they also had so many bad giveaways. So it's almost putting together a complete performance and understanding not only do you have to be good when going forward, but the value in possession. You can't lose the ball in those instances, right? So
Mhm.
I thought Apuya was fantastic at times. His turns excellent, but then he also gave the ball away a lot. the number 10 for India, and it's you can't do that at this level, and that's experience. That's playing against this opponent and knowing, pick your battles, understand that we can attack when we need to attack. I think we were too open at times, don't you think?
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask you guys that, because I think how do you think India should set up going forward against better teams? Because in my football watching experience, when these results happen, when those big upsets happen, it's usually absorb pressure, absorb, and then hit them on the counter. We've seen that with I think Celtic, Barcelona back in the day, Inter Milan, Barcelona back in the day when they were the weaker team, Chelsea a lot this season. So it just looked like India was like, we're going to play an open game, and on both sides there could have been more goals. It could have ended like 7-2 to Qatar.
Yeah.
But do you think India should just go in more defensive, more organized, absorb the pressure a lot more, and then try and hit them on the counter?
It's interesting because I think there's two objectives, right? The first is to get a result. That's the number one objective, and they clearly didn't do that. And I think if you set up the way you're talking about, you have a better chance. The second objective is getting these players comfortable against an opponent like this, and to try and play for a young 23-year-old, right, a number 10, to play and try and create in the center of the park. That's experience too. So it's hard for me to say. Probably primary goal is results, but experience and trying to play, there's some courage in that as well.
Yeah, it's a hard situation. So obviously Kuwait beats Afghanistan 4-0, right? And so now you're in a situation where it's going to come down to, you have to win both games against Afghanistan. Yeah. And you're going to have to get a good result against Kuwait at home. So the rest of these games, you're going to have to, there's not a lot of room for error, right? Yeah. I think he views the Qatar games as, okay, these are the games where I have more room potentially based on the differentiation of the opponents. But I always think about this. What if Kuwait goes out and draws the game against Qatar at home? I mean, that is a bad result for India if that happens, right?
That's the problem. I mean, I understand thinking about this as they're a lot better than us. Let's try and play them and see and use it as a bit of a learning experience. But this could very well come down to goal difference. And a 1-0 is very different from a 3-0. Even a 2-0 is different from a 3-0. And so that third goal really hurt in a lot of ways. I'm concerned that this goal difference might come back to haunt us.
I mean, I guess the good thing is India do have quite a bit of time to go away and think and work on specific things. And the games against Afghanistan are back to back, right? So let's see. Yeah. It could be a very, very different picture 4 games in. And if Qatar and if Kuwait don't do that well against Qatar in either or both of the games, then they'll be the ones chasing, and that puts more pressure on them. So I mean, I think goal difference will come into it. It's a tight group, but we'll see.
Now that's a good segue, actually, just talking a little bit about the tactics into what we wanted to talk about next, and that's of course the Stimac press conference, which was, for those who didn't watch, Igor Stimac is a very open individual who likes to talk very openly. Rahi, I think that's the best way to describe his style.
Honest, direct, straightforward. A lot of Croatian mentality there. He was very open about a few things. He said very clearly, I don't care about the Asia Cup. He might have actually used those words, maybe not those specific words, but he basically insinuated that he's not so concerned about that tournament because it comes too soon for his players and the opponents are too good for his players, Australia, Uzbekistan. So these are games that they don't have a chance in his mind. He said, we'll put everything on the line, but I'm concerned more with the World Cup qualifiers. I don't want to think about that so much because they don't have enough time for preparation. It sounded like a dig at the federation or at the preparation time and sort of the conditions he was given. I don't mind it, Pick, but I could see how a fan might take it the wrong way.
Yeah, I do, and I think it is a bit disrespectful to the fans. I mean, at the end of the day, look, everyone knows, and even diehard Indian fans will know that Australia, Uzbekistan, and Syria are a step above. And to be honest, India likely finish bottom in that group, may not even win any games. But the Asia Cup is an experience, right? This is what you watch international football for. You watch it for the World Cup and you watch it for your local Confederation Cup. And I think you've got to take it more seriously. And even if you don't believe that these games are as important, and I agree, the Asia Cup, the World Cup qualifiers to me are more important than the Asia Cup. I think it is important to fans that the team turns up, gives 100%, and at least believes that they can win. I mean, how are the players going to take this, right? Like, I mean, publicly, you're essentially saying, like, look, it's a free for all. It doesn't matter if you lose, all three of those matches. Like,
Yeah, he
and
talked about
you're telling the players, like, you guys
players.
aren't going to win. Sorry.
He talked about protecting his players, which I'm like thinking
Yeah.
about that. And this is the biggest tournament. India may not make the World Cup. This is the
Yeah, yeah.
biggest opportunity, biggest tournament you have. And when you're playing a team like Australia, that actually preps you for the return game against Qatar as well.
Yeah.
Because when you're going to play someone who's so much better than you, it gives you an opportunity to talk about or to put into practice the things we talked about.
Yeah, but I think he is protecting his players. And we've seen what an Indian fan base in the media can do in terms of pressure they can put on players. And I understand that they should go in thinking they can get a result or just put everything on the line. But this team isn't ready to get a result necessarily. They could get lucky. But I think he is protecting his players from the expectation from an Indian public that maybe isn't used to watching this team as much and sees why have they done so badly in the Asia Cup, if they do, right? I think he's saying, give me time, let them be with me longer and see what we can create, but don't judge us on the Asia Cup and don't judge my players on the Asia Cup. And we've seen at various levels of sport in India, there's a knee-jerk reaction at times to results. And I think that's what he's protecting against. So I'm perfectly fine with that.
I think you can still choose your words a lot better. And I think, you shouldn't say like, oh, we don't really care about the results or anything like that. I think I agree with your basic point, but I just think that you can be slightly more sensitive to the needs of the players and the fans as well. But
Were you
at
guys
the end of
okay
the day,
with
players
his?
are
Yeah.
competitive. Hopefully, they'll give 100% when they're there, and who knows?
Were you guys okay with his very public admitting of which players he thought were good and which ones he thought were not making the cut?
Yeah, that's something I'm not crazy about. I didn't mind him saying that he would have started Manveer Singh because I think that would have been a smart move. I don't love criticism of players publicly. It's also a very sort of Eastern European, just straightforward, doesn't matter, life is tough kind of mentality.
It
Let's see
makes you
how it
wonder
goes.
whether he was actually protecting the players with the other statement, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's fair. Or is he protecting himself? So
Yeah,
far,
yeah.
he has done enough, I think, for me to feel that he's invested in his players, invested in the project, and that he really does care about the team, and that he's gotten some good results. And so I'm invested in him as a manager.
Yeah.
But let's see.
Look, at the end of the day, there's two matches. Like, I think we got really excited about the Qatar match because of the Kuwait result. But if before this, I told you you're going to win against Kuwait and you're going to lose against Qatar, and I think you'll take that.
100%. Take that all day. As an Indian fan, you take that all day.
Yeah, exactly. So,
The last quick question I just want to ask about the press conference is, what did you feel about his very open, admitted, just calling out the federation essentially and saying they need to be way better than us and they have a much further way to go than we do in terms of being better?
That I think we can all agree on. I loved. I think all of you are going to say that you love that because that's something that in various countries, not just India, that's something where federations are well behind what the players need and what the coaches need, and we see that time and time again. We're even seeing it in the U.S. on the soccer football side. So I'm perfectly fine with this. Call them out as much as you want because they need to get better.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's just, is this something that's going to work? Who are the type of people that you're working with? Are you working with the type of people that will sack you and then blame you? Or, I think at the end of the day, the results will hopefully speak for themselves. I mean, he's not wrong. It's just, again, it's about tact rather than whether he's right or wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
If this gets him fired, then it's not a good tactic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about the infrastructural changes that are needed, and we'll continue to
Yeah.
talk about that. But look, like Big said, at the end of the international break, I think if you were to tell us all you're going to have the 3 points and an away win against Kuwait, we'll take it. And
Yeah, yeah.
so I think this was a
100%.
successful campaign for India.
Mm.
Next up for India, the Asian Cup coming up in January. So we'll continue to talk Indian football between now and then. Any
Can I
last
give
words you guys want to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Bic for securing the stream. Now, a little bit difficult here. You know, we're not in India able to watch games on the local channel, so we got to find a way to watch these games. So I gotta give a little MVP of this window to Bic for finding a stream that got us able to watch every minute.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time on it. So just for the viewers in India, um, we had to try VPNs. I had to sign up for a betting website because you can apparently stream if you make a bet. I got banned from the betting website. I'm not going to go into too much more detail there. And finally, we got something on a local or a national sports channel in Qatar. It was a lot of work, but I think it was worth it in the end, despite the result.
Yeah, for the viewers out there, if you guys have any better ways for us to continue to catch these games, please drop it in the comments. But look, like I said, we're going to continue to cover Indian football. And as always, I think we can say this after this particular campaign specifically. Let's go, India, and chuck the India.